Hey folks, I'm attorney Roger P. Foley. I'm on my way to the dentist, so I'm not in the usual clown suit, the shirt, tie, and jacket. But I want to tell you about my week. Today's Friday, and I had a few cases this week. I had 3 cases that I was successful in case filing, case intake, to get those cases dismissed. And how do you get a case dismissed when you're in case intake or case filing? What I do is I look at the police report, I get some information from my client, I look at the jury instructions, and I think about the applicable case law that I'm aware of. There can always be something, and if there's not something I know, then I go research it. And there's a lot that I don't know, so I research a lot. And I make an argument. Now, I believe that people like it short and simple. They don't want it dragged on, right? Like my videos are long and dragged on, right? But when I'm writing to convince someone, I have to be concise. So I usually make it a one-pager. And 3 prosecutors, 3 separate cases, totally different in facts, 3 dismissals. Then I go out to another county and I have a case with a young man who, it's a relatively simple crime. He was sleeping in a car at a park and it was after hours. The police showed up, they asked for ID, and the young man mistakenly refused to give ID because he thought, hey, if I'm not committing a crime, I don't have to give you my ID in the state of Florida. And that's a true statement, except being in a park after hours is a municipal ordinance violation. Therefore, there's PC for the stop. It turns from a consensual encounter or a safety check to an investigative encounter. And then you, as a potential suspect, are required to give your ID. And if you don't give your ID, well, then you're subject to arrest. Well, he didn't give his ID and he became arrested. When I took over the case, they were asking for jail and probation, which was just sort of unbelievable to me. The first prosecutor said, yeah, I'll consider what you're saying and run it up the chain of command and doesn't get back to me. And he's one of those prosecutors that not squared away, right? Discombobulated, as they say. I probably emailed the guy 12 times and called them probably 6 times. I started to feel like a stalker. Like I was chasing a girl, in my early 20s. Like, come on, like, answer your phone, be professional. Anyway, I call him like the day before court again, and he goes, oh, there's a new prosecutor. And I go, oh my goodness, does it ever end? So it's not my case, but I'll do you a courtesy, Mr. Foley, and I'll make a phone call. Now at about 5:30 in the evening, with court the next morning in a far, far land away where I got to drive many hours to get to, he goes, yeah, spoke to the supervisor, and supervisor said no. And I'm going, what is going on in this jurisdiction? So I get to the courthouse, and the judge that's normally covering, who's assigned to the case, there's another judge covering. I guess the judge is out. I'm there early. I'm waiting for the prosecutor because it's a new prosecutor. And although I was told there was a new prosecutor, I emailed that prosecutor. And I said, here's my cell. If there's any way you could call me because we're up tomorrow, it would be helpful. And they didn't. So I'm sitting in the courtroom, and here comes this guy, and he's just so tired looking. And I look over, I'd already introduced myself to the clerks, the 2 females sitting with the judge, and I go, is that the guy? And they go, yeah. And I go, why is everybody so tired here? It's like midday. Like, what's going on? Like, no one took the vitamins. And she smiled, and I said, yeah, the other prosecutor was the same way. Yeah. And they laughed because they knew the name of the prosecutor. And I'm not knocking on any prosecutors. A lot of wonderful prosecutors. And I ended up dealing with some two wonderful prosecutors after this. So let me keep going. So I let the gentleman comes back to the desk. He undoes his stuff, and now I'm waiting patiently. I'm sitting next to his table because I don't want to be like a shark and hover over him. I mean, let the man come in and put down his things and get organized. And I just said, sir, when you have a moment, my name is Roger Foley. I'm on this case. When you have a moment, I'll be more than happy to wait for you. And he goes, I know. And he doesn't look at me. He doesn't offer to shake my hand. He just goes, did you speak to so-and-so? You said in your email that you were, I said, no, not yet. I haven't got a return call. And I said, so look, I obviously I know you can't make the decision of what I'm trying to do. So I was thinking about just resetting it. And he says, okay. So we called it up and the judge reset it. And as I was about to leave, I go, I'm in a land far, far away and I don't know anybody. I need to make some friends. And I need to make some friends with some people who have clout. So I go over to the state attorney's office and I go to the window and I explain to the woman, my name's Roger P. Foley. I'm an attorney. I'm from Palm Beach County. I have this case. I give her the case number and I know who the supervisor is because I acquired that information. And I said, I know this prosecutor is not expecting me. I know that they're probably having a hectic day. They could be in the middle of something. I drove many hours to be here today. And if they could just find it within their heart to give me 5 minutes, I can be short, concise, and make my argument, but I need them. And the woman makes a phone call and she says, the woman will see you if you can wait 5 to 10 minutes. Now, 5 to 10 minutes turned into about 30 minutes or so. And the woman came out and said, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I go, no. No reason to say sorry. I am so thankful to you for taking the meeting with no notice. I don't know you. I didn't email you before. I simply came and showed up at your place. And thank you so much. And she's okay, come on in. And we sat down and I killed her with kindness. And I convinced her with a story about a young man who was sleeping in a car, who was going through some struggles, and that he had a lot of character and a lot of grit and a lot of determination. But like a lot of people in our country, they watch a YouTube video and they think that they know the law, and they don't. And he was wrong, but also the officers were wrong. And she said, yeah, well, they don't like when you don't. I said, yeah, but this is a little bit more. And she goes, what do you mean? I go, well, when the sergeant came, he told my client something to the effect of, whatever law school you went to, you should get your effing money back. And she goes, do you have that on video? And I go, yeah. And so I played it for her. She's like, because it's not the way, right, that someone wants to be. The police don't want to be portrayed in that way. Like, why are they being rude and discourteous, right? Like, why are they mocking a young man that they're arresting for what? Sleeping in a car? Like, there's nothing illegal about sleeping in your car. It's just whether or not it was inside a park or not inside a park, and silly stuff. So she said, I'll do the diversion. And but I got to call the head of the diversion program. She has a conversation with that person and then says, go over there and I'll meet them and get the client in, and we get everything. And then the next step is that diversion in that county requires the client to travel back and forth many times to get the case dismissed. But the client, it's a far trip. It's costly. How do you work? How do you, So I talked to her, and instead of going X amount of times, I get her to reduce that amount. And then I get out to the car and I'm talking to my client and I get a phone call. And this woman says, Mr. Foley? And I said, yes. And she's like, I just spoke to you. And I said, oh yeah, hey, how you doing? And I had joked with this woman and talked about how much she must be loved because she had a rock on her hand, and nice lady, and we're just talking. And she said, listen, I don't normally do this, but I will allow your client to do this from his county of residence, as opposed to traveling back and forth, based on all the information you gave me. And here's what they can do, and explain the process to me. And it made me feel good. Yesterday, I better pay attention to where I'm going, because I'm already making a mistake going to the dentist. Yesterday, I had a case, and I had been going back and forth with a prosecutor, very good prosecutor. And that prosecutor, I was entering a young man into a diversion program. Again, another diversion program. And you think, it's just a diversion. But the prosecutor was asking for 150 hours of diversion. And I was thinking, that's a lot of diversion. That's a lot of community service hours for a young man that, took something. Stole something, right? Not a good look, but he's got to take a theft class and has to be supervised for a year. And then also has to, deal with the repercussions of family and his name and, that kind of thing. So the prosecutor started with 150 hours, and she said, look, I understand that the person works or goes to school or, whatever, and that was contemplated. And I'm like, sometimes people share facts with you, a client shares facts with you that you don't want in the public record. And they're facts that humanize that person and kind of let others know really what's going on, and there's some other situation going on. And I gave a little blurb, but I said, hey, I feel a lot more comfortable talking to you on the phone if you need more information. And I didn't get a response, but court was yesterday. And I go into court, and I said, hey, did you get my last email? And the prosecutor said I did. And I made another comment about the facts. And she goes, give me a minute, I'm going to write it up. And I went from 150 community service hours to 75 community service hours. I didn't do that by saying how big and bad I was, how tough I was, what a great lawyer I was. It's nothing about that. It's humanizing a client, having passion, understanding the totality of the circumstances, and making a concise and persuasive argument to the person who's in charge of making the right decision. And I do that a lot. And I used to think, hey, I'm not having a gazillion trials. I'm not having a gazillion motions. I do a lot of motions. Trials, who wants to go to trial, and then how good are your facts? But that's another story. But I got a lot of court time, a lot of motions, and a decent amount of trials. But I used to think that if I wasn't in trial making that argument, that maybe I wasn't a good attorney. Because all these people are like, I'm going to trial. Like, now I hear wins and losses and that kind of thing. And then some attorney, a senior attorney, kind of took me aside. We were talking, and he goes, why would you think that? He goes, you're so effective. What's your result? What are you trying to get? I'm like, I'm trying to get the case dismissed, either through a technical argument, a persuasive argument, that kind of thing. He's like, you're doing it. Why would you want to be sitting there in front of a jury, or when the jury goes back to the room, right, to deliberate, to the jury room, and you're sitting there in the hallway and you and your client are both sweating, going, I hope I did it. I hope I convinced them. You're convincing people before you even get into the courtroom, before you even, right, with case filing and diversion programs and making arguments and taking those jury instructions and persuading people in power to reduce charges or eliminate charges. And that made me feel good. And this was a week that I ultimately made 5 persuasive arguments that led to 3 cases being dismissed immediately, and 2 cases that'll be dismissed. 1 case will be dismissed in a full year, and 1 case will be dismissed in about 60 days. I don't know. I'm just sharing. I'm not boasting. I'm just telling you that there's different ways to get there. And it follows up on my little short video yesterday is there's no geniuses in the courtroom, contrary to what people will tell you. They say there's many ways to skin a cat. I don't know. I would never skin a cat, but you get the point. There are many ways to succeed. And we all have different styles and manners to achieve our goals. So some people go to the NBA at 19, and some people have a successful college career. Some people go play in Europe. So if you want a sports analogy, there's different ways to get to the NBA. There's different ways to win your case. Ask your attorney what his or her way is. If you need help, you know who I am, Roger P. Foley. Have a great day.